Hello, everybody. Welcome to Todd and Shane's Cloudy Podcast, episode 414, recorded live December 19th, 2018. And I've just now realized, Shane, I don't think either of us looked up what code 414 is, so while I'm stalling...
Oh, I was typing that in while you were...
Oh,
Right, because if you had just waited, if you had just taken a little bit longer, you would have found out that it was request URI was too long, which is normally what your intros are, is too long.
too long. My intros are too... Well, you remember back in the day, I used to talk about me a lot more in the intro, and you made me cut that out. I mean, I could really make this intro like a good minute and a half, 2 minutes about me and what I'm doing and all of that. And you made me cut all that out.
Now, see, cut is an interesting word. I would say that you just shifted it because if I recall, the topics, what you said was, hey, I did something this week, so the topic's going to be all the things that Todd has done this week. So
Here are all the wonderful things that I have accomplished.
So I don't know if I got you to cut it as much as I got you to reposition.
Pivot. Isn't that what the politics, they pivot?
Yeah, we want to get more synergies around what was going on with the podcast, so...
There we go. If you guys have your buzzword bingo cards out, that's two check boxes right there. But one thing that we don't spend enough time talking about is how great the products at SysKit are. And if you've got anybody, we're down to like less than a week before Christmas. So coming up on time to start doing Christmas shopping. I'm feeling a lot of stress about Christmas. I don't know if my wife's gotten all the shopping done yet or not, and that weighs heavily on me. I need that all go from her to know that I can stop worrying about this. But if you have anybody on your list and you don't know what to buy them, SysKit has a lot of products, a lot of great things, good stocking stuffers, great people. Go out to syskit.com. They've got tools for the administrator in your family, finding out about the servers and their farms, Office 365 stuff. So syskit.com. Great. Still time. Get it shipped to your door by Christmas.
Now, so have you not gotten Jill to buy her own present? That's where I'm really struggling. It turns out that Nicola did not buy any of her own presents, and she expects me to do it. And I'm like, I tried to order. I mean, this is literally a conversation last night. I was like, I tried to order some stuff, and it was all sold out. It wasn't going to be here by Christmas. Do you still want me to order that?
Yeah. So that's really the only one that I got a couple things for the kids. I think I've told you what I got Owen. He's not here. So I got him one of the Tesla car for my referral. But yeah, Jill's the tough one to buy for. And yeah, I'm not completely full of that. And in the chat room, Mark's talking about he still needs to get some stocking stuffers. Same with that. My wife gets all the stocking stuffers, so I need to get her stocking stuffer stuff, The struggle. I don't know that they appreciate the stress that we're under.
I think my wife just needs to go ahead and make peace with she's going to be disappointed. When I tried to, so I've ordered one thing and it's supposed to be here tomorrow.
Yep.
And
I'm in the same boat.
I
Yep.
mean, I'm like the rest of it, so I mean, I can either order some crap that she doesn't want, or I could go to the jewelry store and buy something super expensive that I know that she would like, but probably be like, oh, if you're going to spend that much money, you should have bought this. So why the heck would I do that? So yeah, I'm probably just going to disappoint her.
Yeah. Oh, I'm knowing her. I mean, she's used to that. That's probably her average emotion.
True story.
Yes. Buying, what do you get the woman? What do I get the woman who already has me? Who already has everything? I don't even know.
I know. And what's on your Christmas list? What is Todd Clint hoping that Santa Claus brings him?
Well, that's funny. So I asked my wife a couple days ago because I had some ideas and she hasn't really asked. I'm like, hey, do you need some ideas for me for Christmas? She's like, no, you're all taken care of. And I'm like, well, we haven't really talked about what I want. So I don't know. So we also have this thing, and this started happening, like 20 years ago. I have the ability to destroy Christmas and my birthdays because she cannot keep a secret. So we could be like 1 or 2 sentences into that conversation and I will have already figured out all the things that she got me. So we either have to talk about it long before she's made any purchases or just not talk about it at all because she's just not good at that.
Yeah. Well, and so far, I mean, as best I know, all I'm getting is, and this is not exaggeration, I'm literally getting new socks and new underwear.
Maybe some new sweatpants.
I have asked for some new good sweatpants. I mean, let's not get too excited. That's a pretty major purchase, though.
Yeah, boy, if you've been good this year, I know that's how Santa will reward you. He'll get you some new sweatpants, some good sweatpants too.
Yeah, so so it's hard for me to feel too bad, right? Because she doesn't say, hey, you can just go buy me some socks. She buys herself socks. I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't buy myself socks all year so you could get them at Christmas. So
You suffered all year with year-old socks.
yeah. I'm sure we've talked about it in the past, but I think this is a good time to remind people that, that my very first major purchase after I got a real job, right? All of a sudden I was making 50 G's a year. I was doing this everywhere, right?
Oh, yeah. Never spend all that money.
Never. But yeah, so when I got my first real job, my big moment, my big first purchase was I threw away all of my socks and went and bought all of the same socks. I bought, 14 pairs of the same pair of socks. So I never had to match socks again. And that has been the case for 20 years now. So once again, my advice to you guys, if you're ever like, what is that one splurge purchase? It is throw away all, or give to charity all your old socks, if assuming that they want them, and buy yourself one set of matching socks. You never have to match colors or links again. Oh.
Yeah, so I did a similar thing. The problem that I have found is, I think probably from running, I probably wear socks out faster than you do. And twice now, I have done the thing that you did, bought a bulk, all kind of socks. So it doesn't matter if I lose socks, doesn't matter if I wear them out because any sock matches any other sock. But then when I get down below my critical mass where I need more socks, I can't find the exact same sock that I bought a year and a half ago or whatever. So then I have to purge them all again and buy a whole new set. That's happened to me twice now.
Yeah, and so I've been lucky. Probably the last 5 years or so, Hanes has been in the same, has had the same sock. So
Gotcha.
I have been able to do it. But and that's where I made the mistake last year when I did the great sock purchase, was I integrated. So then half of them were nice and, cozy and new, and half of them were old and destroyed.
Yeah.
So then this year when I do the great sock purchase, I'm going to 100% purge. Even though they're the same, they'll all match, I'm still going to just purge them
Different
all.
levels of wear.
Because no one wants to have one cushy sock and one, sock with almost a quasi borderline hole in it. No one wants that.
No. But yeah, so that's it. Women, if you're listening and you don't know what to buy your man, there you go. Just a bunch of socks that are all the same. Just make him happy.
Yeah, or get someone to do the laundry. Even better.
Yep. All right, well, let's jump in. I have been busy this week.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I got you off topic of talking about yourself by including me in the conversation.
I was talking, but we're just shifting another way to talk about myself. Don't you worry. We're keeping this on topic. Me. So I've got like many of us and like you, I've got this, list of blog posts that I keep not publishing. And I was able to check a couple off this last couple of weeks. And one that I published yesterday was how to copy Office 365 group permissions with PowerShell.
Okay.
And this one came up with a call from a customer, was extolling on them the virtues of Office 365 groups and how everything should be a group. And that was after we spent, an hour talking about exactly what a group was. And this is one of my favorite things. Our buddy Christoph was the group program manager for a while. And when groups first came out, a year and a half ago, it was all very confusing. And we would talk to Christoph and we'd be like, man, we're really confused. Like, what are these groups things? And he'd be like, man, it's not that tough. Though he would say it with his French accent and it sounded, way more sexy. But he would say, it's really not that tough. They're not that tough of a concept to understand. I'm doing a 75-minute session on them later today. And you're like, which is it? Is it easy to understand or does it take 75 minutes to explain? So I just come off that discussion with my customer and they were on board. They're all modern and all that. And so they said, okay, well, we've got a couple of instances where we want the same people in two different groups. How do we do that? And you can't. So you can't do any nesting with Office 365 groups. You can't put an Office 365 group in another Office 365 group. You cannot put an Azure AD group inside of an Office 365 group. You can't put an Office 365 group inside of an Azure AD group. I mean, all the different ways you want to go at that problem, there are no ways to do it. And so this customer has worked with me a long time, and they said, okay, well, you're always talking about how you can do everything with PowerShell. Fix this with PowerShell.
Good for them.
I am so easily manipulated like that. I mean, it's the whole Stephen Swinney thing from 6 years ago. I just tell Todd it can't be done in PowerShell, and yeah. So I did. I sat down and figured it out. And I published this one, and I forgot to put a couple of things in the blog post that I wish I had. But basically, the idea, just take what I've got for them is a PowerShell script that will copy, and either a copy with merge or a copy with override, all the permissions from one group to another group. So they can run this whenever. But a couple of good lessons that blog post talks about is the fact that the group management in PowerShell, specifically the PNP PowerShell, is done through the graph. So you have to kind of understand what the graph is and how to connect to the graph and what the graph permissions are and all that. So that's one good thing to understand. But then the part that I did put in the blog post that I forgot is the mechanics of what I did obviously work for, copying back and forth, but it can also be adapted to import or export members into groups. So if you had a list of 100 people that need to be in a group somewhere in a CSV file or whatever, if you can get it out, you can use the bottom half of my script to put it back in. Or if you need to do some kind of reporting on who has access from a group, you can use the top half of the script to export it out. And that's the part that I didn't cover in the blog post that I wish I had.
All right, well, just aren't you fancy? I mean, and I agree. I'm glad your customer decided to manipulate the it can't be done, so Todd will do it in PowerShell for me.
Works every time.
It does. In the group story, so not to talk about your blog post, but to talk about the group stuff, it's just a nightmare. I don't know.
I think I've got it now, though. I'm at that point now where I understand it well enough that I can explain it to somebody else, and it's not bad.
Well, no, I mean, it's not cursive knowledge much, right?
Yeah.
It's not bad now that you've spent the last 3 years studying it and building code around it. But right, because I always try to think about these type of things for that poor person who walks in off the street blind, right? Because that's all the customers I'm having these calls with. And, for example, I didn't even realize this until early or late last week. So with Power Apps, when you're sharing, you can either share with individual users or Azure AD security groups. You can't use Office 365 groups. You can't use SharePoint groups. You can only use Azure AD security groups, right? And I'm like, I don't even know how to explain that to people because I'm like, up until 5 minutes ago, I didn't even think about things called Azure AD security groups because Microsoft used groups generically so many times.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. I mean, I'm certain that they understand that this is a hot mess, but I don't know what their plans are for pulling it back in.
Yeah. Well, so you're right. The fact that I understand it means that it feels like everybody should understand the cursive knowledge. Yeah, I'm absolutely positively guilty of that. But I think I have found a way to describe groups that makes it easy to understand for other people. So, and let me try it out on you.
Yeah, no, I want to hear it. I'm excited.
So it depends on my audience. So you're an IT pro. So here's how I will describe groups. Groups are simply Active Directory security groups. You create them, you put people in them, they're a security principal, you can assign them permissions, that kind of thing. But when you create this Active Directory security group, when you create it, a bunch of little robots go out. There's automation that goes out and creates things automatically that this group has access to. So it creates a SharePoint site that this has access to. It creates a team that this group has access to. It creates a planner plan that this group has access to. And so imagine it being, in the old days, you would create a AD security group, but imagine if when you did that in the background, something automatically created a file share that group had access to. That's what an Office 365 group is.
And so...
Okay.
No, you go ahead if you want.
No. So as an IT pro, does that focus it a little better for you?
Yes, but I don't. But as a guy who quasi understands them, I don't think it doesn't sound right.
Okay, what doesn't sound right about it?
Because I did not think that an AD security group got created when you created a Office 365 group.
It doesn't. I said it's like a AD security group.
That's where I missed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So think of an Office 365 group the way that you would think of an AD security group. It's a security principal. It's got people in it.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess so. Yes, I understand that. The challenge has always been, right, that it's that disconnect because that has nothing to do with SharePoint groups or with Azure AD security groups.
Correct. Well, and that's and so if that comes up, then they are different things. So if I have that same discussion with end users, I describe it differently. I say, okay, so like if I'm describing it to my mom or site collection administrators or something like this, I say, imagine you are in Outlook and you create a distribution list, a mailing list, a thing that you want to add. When you type in people who love cheese, it's going to be these 15 people every time. You're just doing that. An Office 365 group is just that. Except when you create that, you get your distribution list in Outlook. You can send the cheese lovers the emails. But in the background, these little robots go out, and they also create the cheese lovers a SharePoint site and a planner plan and a team and whatever. And then anytime you send something to the cheese eaters, they can go to any of those places to consume it.
That is fair.
So that is the way that I explain. Now, there's a bunch of different nuances depending on how you create the Office 365 group. You get different things. Also, in the background, we all know, you and I know that there are gears and mouse traps and stuff that keep that synchronization going. In some places, it's federated. In some places, it's replicated. End users don't need to care about that. But that's when I try to get people's arms wrapped around it. Depending on the audience I'm talking to, those are the two different ways I explain it.
Yeah, and as an IT pro, I also find it very disheartening that it actually doesn't create an Exchange distribution list, right? It creates an Exchange group, which acts just like a distribution list, but is very, very specifically and on purpose not an Exchange distribution list, because they want to get rid of Exchange distribution lists, and they yell at you when you create Exchange distribution lists today.
Yeah, and Mark Christian in the chat room has brought up a good link. If you haven't already gone to it, there's the periodic table of Office 365 is a great thing that kind of shows this. And Matt Wade, the guy that wrote that, also has a really great link on groups that I reference whenever I do these talks in front of users. I always link his thing.
Yeah, that periodic table, it's got some great content around Flow and Power Apps also.
It's you can tell there's just not much out there, and he really had to scrape the bottom of the barrel to get those references.
Haters gonna hate. but yeah, I mean, so as a guy who understands all the moving pieces, right? And I was just kind of letting you do. Yeah. I wanted to hear your pitch, right? It just drives me bonkers that I know that in reality all of this is 17 different things, and it just angers me. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter that that's the case. I mean, we choose to be worried about that, but I don't know. Other than the whole when you delete one thing, it deletes all the other stuff. Yeah.
No, I mean I'm with you, and it's and most of the people I've had to explain it to thus far, I've really just went from the standpoint of going, from SharePoint, you hit new site, and then it's like, do you want a team site or a group site? And explaining it, I've always come from that angle because that's always been the where I've gotten the question. So. Yeah,
and that also, So if you have a SharePoint knowledgeable person, then you can go in that way. That gets a little confusing because, and the reason that gets confusing is from a SharePoint side, we've had pretty discrete permissions. And the problem with groups is since it goes across all of these products, the permission that you can give a group has to be the least common denominator of that. So for instance, in SharePoint, there is no way with a group to give somebody read-only access, which is maddening because in SharePoint you do that all the time. But you can't do that with a group. You've got members who can contribute and you've got owners, which can own. So why can't you give read-only? That doesn't make any sense. That's a really obvious use case for SharePoint. The problem is, how do you give somebody read-only access in Teams? That's called lurking, and that's generally referred to as creepy and bad. So that's the big problem with the Office 365 thing is since, so as a SharePoint person, it gets confusing because we're used to all these things that we can do that you can't do with groups. Yeah, depends on your audience.
Yeah, and I ran into something very similar to that the other day with a customer who they want to do external sharing in SharePoint from a modern site or a modern list more specifically. And, and once again, they kind of did the default thing there, right? And so that the external person got contribute, right? They were in the members because that's where SharePoint steered him. But then they saw the buttons for, creating flows and Power Apps, which weren't going to work, but we're going to let him click on. So then we had to take them out of that, and we ended up having to go make a new, we had to go old school, right? Make a new SharePoint permission level that was contribute minus some of the funky permissions, some of those, granular permissions to get an experience where the person didn't see the flow and the Power Apps buttons that they shouldn't be able to see anyway. Yeah. External users is a whole nother curveball in this giant conversation.
Yeah. Groups handles those differently. Those are guests. Yep.
Yeah. That'd be a good one we can talk about. Yeah, we can just talk about it now. So the other weird thing I've been fighting was I've been trying to do more with Teams, right? As much as it pains me to say, I accept that Teams is where Microsoft wants the center of the universe to be. So I've learned a whole bunch about Teams over the last few weeks, and I've been trying to use it. As you guys know, with Power Apps 911, I do a lot of support calls. Just hop on with somebody for an hour, share their screen, fix their app, move on down the road.
Yeah.
And so I've been using Teams about a third of the time when I send those out just to see what would happen. And one of the issues I've now ran into is Teams, they've tried to make it, super governable.
Governable, yes.
So if one of my customers joins my team meeting, so I just sent them a team meeting, I didn't add them to the channel or any of that, just here's a team meeting. They get logged in, everything's great. They can then share their screen, okay. I'm then like, hey, let me take control, right? I'm a control freak, let me take over. And it turns out that somehow, some way, I don't know how they do it yet, their IT is blocking it so that they can't allow me to control their screen through Teams. So even though my tenant is who generated the team, I sent out the team meeting in the link.
Yeah.
That person, because they're logged in with their Office 365 account into my team meeting, their IT still has some controls over what they can and can't do, which really grinds my gears.
Yeah, and I would like to compare notes with you because there are a bunch of common but edge scenarios inside of Teams around sharing and external folks that just don't work. Like I am mostly sure, though you may have a different experience, that if you have a meeting between two people who are in different tenants, so that means somebody is a guest in one of the, that there is not a way to create that meeting where they can both share their screen, or there's not a way to create a live event where they can both share their screen. There's one of those two things that you can't do it where they can both do it.
So I've definitely done it. I've definitely shared our screens with both of us in a meeting.
Okay.
But I've not done any live events. So maybe it's the live event.
Yeah. So I think, so Julie Turner, one of my coworkers, had that thing. She was bringing somebody in for a user group and they were trying to use Teams, and they got the thing backwards where whichever tenant they would have had to use for that person to do the sharing couldn't do it, and Teams was just, yeah.
Yeah, no, right. And if we think back to Skype, so another downfall of Teams before I switch to Skype is there is no meet now concept for team meetings for like an external meeting like that, right? So in Skype, I got a new call. I just jump over to Skype for Business. I click the little drop down, and they know it was so important. It had its own little button, right? Meet now. That fires open a meeting. I click the button to copy the info. I email that off to the customer. They hop right in. With Teams, there is no meet now, so I have to go in and schedule a meeting for now.
Yeah. Then
get into it, then get the info, and then send it to them, right? I mean, so same end result, but a lot more work for such a common, as you said, common use case scenario.
Yep. This is progress, people. The same functionality, 5 times more clicks.
So yeah, there's a lot of warts, and I guess, and I'm not plugged in. I don't know who even to provide my team's feedback to at this point. Other products, I feel like I know the person to be like, hey, do you guys know this is dumb?
Fix your stuff. Yeah, I don't know who does either. And then Dan Christian in the chat room is mentioning that switching tenants is horrendous in Teams.
It's a little slow.
Yeah, and I hate, the idea behind Teams is for it to be the new Outlook client where everything is in one window. I hate that everything's in one window, because if I'm doing a chat with you about some other stuff and then I'm in a meeting with my coworkers, that's all one window and I can't split anything out and I have to switch between them, and you can't have a second instance of Teams. So then you're like, well, I guess I can do a web client for something, and it's horrible.
Yeah, it is not what we're used to. I think the problem is, I'm guessing we're just the edge case, right? I don't think that the way we work is really how the world works.
I don't think that's the case. I think Microsoft thinks that way, but I think...
Well, so like all the things you just described, Slack has all those same issues. and that's who they're copying. So
Yeah. That's I can have multiple instances of Slack open, I think.
can you?
Let's
I've
find
never
out.
tried. Slack uses so much RAM. I couldn't even imagine what would happen to my computer if I tried to open 2 Slacks.
Maybe not. But yeah. So good on you for trying to tame the Teams beast.
It's not going well, but I'm trying. So
Yep. A much shorter topic, hopefully, will be one of the things that got announced this week is they've added some no-code solutions for formatting lists and things inside of SharePoint Online. And that's, I think they demoed this at the SharePoint conference last year. It's actually kind of out in the wild now. And it's the ability to do conditional formatting and all that without having to dump in JSON to the list and all of that. Just another one of those things, another tool to have in your toolbox when your users are asking how to do things, or if you're the user trying to do things. Kind of gussies up the list a little bit.
I can't wait to look into it. I haven't looked at it yet, but I'm going to guess that it's a whole new language again, right? We wouldn't want to reuse any of the existing languages. And yesterday I had to help someone with a calculated column in SharePoint for the first time in 17 years, and it was awkward, right? I'm like, I don't, it's you start with an equal sign and then you have the column name in brackets. No, it's an equal sign and then it's the concatenate function and then parentheses and then the square brackets and then commas and I felt really dumb doing it. So
Yeah, and this is progress.
I mean,
I've
yeah,
not played it this much.
that's been the same engine forever, right? I don't understand why there's just not a link to, right there on that page. They could just give me a little link that said, documentation here, right? And if it just took me to a page that said, here's the basic syntax and here's a list of the functions you have available. But as far as I know, they don't have, they never wrote that piece of documentation.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never looked.
Ugh. Anyway, not important. Just,
just your gears being grinded. So another thing that came out last week that I kind of wanted to mention is Microsoft released an official webpage talking about how to modernize your pages inside of SharePoint Online. And I think that's something that is a source of much confusion. I've talked to Mark Anderson about this. This is something I think I'm going to blog. Just what it means to upgrade from classic to modern, because there's just a bunch of different things that can be classic or modern. There's different objects, and trying to figure out which objects can be classic and modern and how you upgrade them and what that means, things like that.
I'm just going to complain, so I'm going to be quiet.
Yeah, the tentative blog post title that I have now is, and this of course is subject to change, converting from classic to modern, whatever that means. So just trying to explain what that means, what the different pieces are, and it was fun because I was kind of talking through my notes with Mark. Mark is more of an end user guy. He's more of a than I am. I'm more of a back end guy, and so I'm like here's which is different than what you're thinking, by the way, but different. So talking through my points with him, and I said, okay, so one of the things that people talk about upgrading a site from classic to modern, but from what I understand, you can't upgrade a site because that is the template that the web was created with. And so then I mean, Mark, who's been doing SharePoint for 100 years, and I don't just say that because he's old, but because he's done it a long time.
He is old.
He is old. He's like, no, site collections can have a template. I'm like, oh, this old thing. I mean, but that is how deep the confusion is on these whole topics. So him and I had to break it down, and I'm like, I think, here's what I'm thinking. He's like, oh, yeah, that's true. Okay, so it's webs. I'm like, but this is, if you and I have to discuss this, end users don't have a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so as you do the research for that, if you go back probably 10 shows or so, I put in, so a few months ago, they put out a bunch of blog posts that were this exact topic also. And so there's a new, an official landing page around how to do the branding and the customizations and the difference between the two and how to transition. So everything that you described as either the new content they created or you want to create, they published a whole bunch of that stuff 3 months ago also. But, why they would connect that with the stuff they just published now.
Well, they might have. So, yeah, if you think about that, point me to where that one is. I would like to I would like to see that. But that's an upcoming thing just because there's a lot of confusion about that. So I'm gonna.
No, I think it's a great topic, and I think, and one of the things that I will ask of you in that, right, is because I know you'll do it, but technical articles need dates, right? So just make sure that this is all valid as of this day, folks, because ever since you brought that up, and it's become kind of one of our side topics on here, man, I can't go 5 minutes without finding a technical article that I'm like, is this 4 years ago, or is this is this current?
Yeah, and I think we talked about it on the show. Content producers are loath to put those dates there because they don't want to lose the eyeballs because people look at it and go, oh, this is a year old. It's not applicable. But the fact is, it's a year old. It might not be applicable. Like you're trying to deliberately choose to give people bad information just because you want the clicks.
Yeah. Well, and we're still not gonna get into it, right? But someone took some words that I said 18 months ago and published them as if I just said them yesterday, right? I feel like I'm in the middle of a political scandal, trying to to tell a story that they want to tell, they know is untrue, but they're just they're leaving out the dates so they can say, nope, we just omission. It's not their fault they forgot to put a date on it.
Yeah. So all of my blog posts have dates on them. I mean, that's just part of the SharePoint 2010 blogging engine. But yeah, I'm with you. When I'm king of the world, there's going to be some changes around here, and that will be one of them.
I can't wait. I'm not going to vote for you, but I can't wait.
Well, I'm going to be king. I don't need your vote.
Oh, that's right. Darn it.
I'm king.
So wait, so your mom married you to the princess of this and the duchess of that and something like that? Is that what's going to happen?
Oh, or a violent coup. I could overthrow the world. You never know.
I mean, at this point,
nothing is outside the realm of possibility anywhere at this point. It could happen.
Well, one of our friends on Facebook posted an article about how spiders could eat all of us if they wanted to within a year. So maybe it's the spiders you should be talking to about this kingship.
You don't know that I'm not.
Fair enough.
I'm just saying. So kind of an offshoot, something fun that I ran across yesterday is a website, remove.bg, that will remove the background from photos. And it's a web service, and it does. So basically what you do, you go to this webpage, remove.bg, you upload a file to it, and it gives you a downloadable version of that file with the background removed. Super simple, super cool. The only limitation right now is that it only works with pictures of people. It's like I tried to do one with my car to get the background out with my house and all that, and it couldn't do that. And I've got some images that I use in slides that I didn't realize had white backgrounds that I want to have transparent backgrounds. So I thought that would be good. It doesn't work with those. But if you have, headshots or whatever of people, background.bg just poof, removes the background. And it works pretty well. Because I was working on something similar at the time, I probably ran 40 pictures through it yesterday. And all but about 3 were just spot on. Like all but about 3 were as good as I would ever hope to get them. So,
well, that's good. I played with because PowerPoint in Office 365 now has that in Word and all those. Yeah, I talked about this a couple weeks ago. You were apparently ignoring me when I was talking about this.
So I remember. So you mentioned that Outlook had a thing. Outlook 365 had a thing where it would remove appointments that were in the past, which I thought I've turned on but doesn't work correctly. But no, I was listening. I absolutely, yeah.
I'm just teasing.
I don't remember you mentioning those though.
But yeah, so there's now, just go insert an image into PowerPoint, and then you'll see there's a background blur thing.
I don't want a background blur. I want background remove.
Oh, no. So they're a blur.
Yeah. So for specifically my use cases, I've got a slide that talks about all the different components of Office 365. Mm-hmm. And if the slide master has a white background, it works well. But if the slide master has a blue background, you find out my Dynamics image has a white background. So it's the Dynamics image, a white background, square, and then the blue background of the slide. So I want to make the background of that Dynamics image transparent. So whatever color slide master I drop it on, that's the thing I want to do.
So I probably show you how to do that in Snagit in a couple seconds.
So I've tried to do it in Snagit, like the fill and the transparent, and it doesn't work.
And did you miss with the little slider that controls the level of matching?
I thought so.
Okay. I'm not. It lets you down sometimes. I'm not saying you did it wrong. I'm not blaming you this time.
Man, I assume that I screwed up every time something doesn't work. So. All right, so we're getting a little far along in topics. Is there anything towards the end that you would like to speak of?
Um,
So I'm kind of curious about, so I guess a quick one, I'm curious a little bit about but a quick one that we wanted to mention. You talked last week or the week before about workflow in SharePoint breaking and how you just patched the ever-living snot out of a machine to fix it. And folks, I'm telling you, yesterday, Shane and I got an email from somebody who's like, hey, I don't know what's going on. All my workflows quit working. It was the patches.
Yep, we're like, you could pay one of us to get on there, but all you got to do is sit and install patches until you can't install patches anymore. And they emailed back, said, I fixed it. We're like,
But so, and here's the thing that really stunk, folks. This is the kind of disrespect that I suffer on a daily basis. This person emailed us, both of us, and said, hey, this is the problem. So I was busy. I was watching one of my kids' Christmas things. Shane replies back, Todd's probably taking a long lunch. Here's the fix. When I got back from my parental duties, I defended myself and then said, yep, this is it. Gave a little more detail. And then the customer came back and said, yeah, that did it. And then called me a slacker because I said the same thing Shane did. Yes, I'll happily take your money, but really you can do this for yourself. Here's the instructions. Let me know if you need help. I get called a slacker, not Shane, who said the exact same thing.
well, let's just be fair, right? I mean, one of us is notorious for his need to go to lunch every day and to take a long lunch. So the other one of us is notorious for sitting at his desk for 14 hours a day without moving. So, you know.
Maybe it's because I don't have nice sweatpants. Maybe I could just stay at my desk for longer periods if I had nice sweatpants.
If you owned a pair of good sweatpants, your life would you would probably never put on jeans again.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, so let's talk about the laptop one. You got a thing in here about you want to buy a new laptop?
Yeah, I don't know. So I'm realizing that this coming year, I am doing a whole bunch of events. So like I'm teaching the Power Apps and Flow app in a day in Florida in January, a couple weeks. We got SP TechCon, we got SharePoint conference, we've got I don't know, March I'm gone, I think the entire month. And so I was just thinking that my 2-year-old Surface may be ready to be replaced. It does everything fine, but I don't know, I feel like it could do better. So I guess I wanted to kind of get your 2 cents on if I was going to buy a laptop, what should I know in this day and age?
Yeah, well, I think your and I's mobile needs are different, so I think the things that I would like are not the things that you would like. But I'm happy to give you my opinion just the same, because I've kind of been doing some kicking around. So you've had Surfaces for several versions. I haven't had a Surface since the Surface Pro 2. Kind of got out of the loop and then all that. My normal laptop is a 15-inch convertible laptop. So it does laptop stuff, but you can spin it over and it looks like a thing, or you can, put it flat. I picked 15-inch mostly because when I'm using my laptop, it's because I'm traveling. And so I'm in a hotel room, trying to do work on a screen that's, 17 inches too large to carry. It's just too heavy. But I found that 15-inch is almost getting too much for like airplanes and things like that. So I have also been looking at something smaller, closer to the size, because your Surface Pro or your Surfaces have what, a 12-inch screen?
Yeah, I'm on the Surface Pro 4, so yeah, it was the bigger, yeah.
Yeah. So I've been looking at like 13-inch laptops that are convertibles like mine and getting close to something that I like there. I definitely like the convertible thing because then if I want to put a keyboard or a mouse on it, I can just fold it over and it's just, it acts just like a monitor. Full power of a laptop. The battery life on them is crazy these days, so that works out pretty well. But one thing, so I've got a Google Fi account, and one of the things that Google Fi will give you is a data SIM for no extra charge. And so I've been starting to look at laptops and tablets that have an LTE slot in them because I can get, and I have, a data SIM that doesn't cost me anything, that just uses the data that I'm already paying for. So that's the other thing that I've been looking at. So I've been looking at 13-inch ones and something with an LTE slot. And there's a bunch of stuff out there. But I don't think that's probably the thing that you're looking for.
Yeah, and what are you price-wise? I mean, what's because if I think about really probably keys for me is I want an SSD hard drive and I probably want 16 gigs of RAM, right? I can't stand running out of RAM. I think those are my 2 cares as I kind of evaluate this.
Yep. So yesterday I was on Windows Central because they had an article about the best Windows 10 LTE laptops of 2018. And they've got the Surface. So the Surface Go is going to have that. They've got some things. So price-wise, they're looking around $1,000. Now you can go a whole lot higher than that if you want to, but that's kind of what they're looking at. So
Gotcha.
I don't know. I would love to get this. And the Surface Pros are in there. They're pretty expensive.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I pasted in the chat room that link that I read, so you can catch that later. I don't know. And I'm with you. My current laptop is fine. I mean, it works. I'm just, I'm getting jonesing for a new laptop, getting a little horny for some new hardware.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And the Surface definitely does everything I want. It's been fine because really the only work that I do anymore is Power Apps. So if I'm sitting in a hotel room, it's, it's reading emails or it's opening up and building a Power App. And both of those, I think, or, the Power App building is really browser based. So I don't probably need the resources that I want, but, it's, you can never have enough RAM, right? I mean, it's just literally not
Especially
possible.
when everything's browser based, yeah.
Yeah. And I also don't I don't really care that it's touchscreen, right? I don't watch movies on it or any of that stuff that you do really. I basically, if I'm opening up my laptop, it is to build a Power App.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, that is less about resources, more about screen size. I'm not a young man anymore. My eyes are starting to do the thing that old people's eyes do. So the bigger screen, like I just don't know if a 12-inch screen, if I could go from 15 to 12. I don't know. But there's some articles out there. Since I know you're looking, I'll shoot you some more of the other ones. 'Cause I've been sniffing around a new laptop a little bit myself.
Very good. That's and I probably just won't do anything if there's not. I don't know. And what about the Surface laptops? Are they any? I mean, have you looked at them at all? I'm just curious. Not
A little bit. They're too expensive for me, honestly.
That's what that's where I was wondering. Like, I mean, I saw the price point was so darn high. I didn't know if they were like amazing and great and worth it somehow, or if they just.
I mean, they clearly are for some people, but for me, it's just not been. And it's not. It's just too expensive for what I use them for.
Yeah.
I don't game or do any kind of 3D graphics or anything like that.
No, just needed to be able to push out to a projector so I can say, "Here's my dumb slides."
Yep. So you'll appreciate this story. I don't know if you will remember this much, but I think it was when we were at SPC last year. We were trying to do the podcast, and we were using my laptop, and we were having a hell of a time with my USB-C hub.
Yep.
We are nearly a year later, and I know what the problem was, and it is just horrendously embarrassing.
What did you?
So for folks who didn't sit there, my current laptop has two USB-C jacks on the right side and a USB-A, the old regular one on the left side. And Shane and I were trying to run cameras and microphones and all that, and I had a USB-C hub that had, plugged into the USB-C and then had regular USB ports on it, had a network adapter, all the stuff we would need, but I couldn't get the damn thing to work. And it would, they could power up, like I could power things on it, I could charge my phone with it, but it just no data would go. And just furious, and that was a big part. So I've had that problem a couple of times since then. I ordered another hub. It mostly worked, but I had spurious problems with it too. Here's what ended up happening. I was looking at my laptop like a week ago and was looking at those for looking at something else. I have two USB ports on the right side. One is power only. One is power and data. Guess which one I was plugging the hub into?
Power only?
Son of a... So my laptop also charges with USB-C. So for whatever reason, I just gotten used to plugging it in the back port, which was power and data, leaving the other one open, which was the one I kept plugging the hub into that didn't have data. If I swap them, that hub works every time. Son of a... Yeah.
I'm not going to make fun of you. I think it's ridiculous that they set you up for failure. It was their fault, not yours.
Well, and that's the thing. So Microsoft is notorious for not having USB-C ports on their hardware. And they've always talked about it. Well, it's the customer experience, blah, blah. And I've always thought that's a bunch of crap. I still kind of think it's a bunch of crap. But now, having been on the business end of that, I sort of get it. They're still wrong. They still should do it. But I understand their argument more now.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Any other topics before we leave?
No, I think we're good. I mean, I will just, I wanted to hit, this is kind of transitioning us anyway, right? But Free Power Apps and Flow training. So Microsoft puts on a program called Power Apps and Flow App in a Day. And so it's a one-day event that they put on. They bring in different partners to come and teach those. And so I will be teaching one in Tampa on January 15th, one in Fort Lauderdale on January 18th. And then old Dan Christian, also hanging out in the chat room, will be teaching in St. Louis on the 24th. So people doing those three, if you're looking to get up to speed on Power Apps and Flow, or you want to send some people from your office to get them up to speed, these are nice little programs just to kind of get that going. And I'm pretty sure it's all free. I think I have to pay for your lunch. I mean, it's pretty sad. But imagine spending a day with me. And if one day with me is not enough, you can spend a whole week of Power Apps and Flow training January 7th through the 10th.
Oh my.
Right? That's through powerapps911.com/training. So sign up for that. If you want a discount, just email me and I'll get you a discount. I'm a nice guy like that.
He knows somebody he can hook you up.
Yeah. The wife, assuming I get her enough of a Christmas present that she's still speaking to me, will be able to make that happen.
Fat chance.
So that was my quick updates.
Yeah, well, and then, so in February, SP TechCon, which is February 10th through the 13th.
Yep.
Go to sptechcon.com and find out about that. You and I are doing a day-long thing on Flow and Power Apps. I think we're doing that session again. And then we're doing various sessions through the week on Monday and Tuesday. I forget what all they are, but come find us. As SP TechCon, if you haven't been there before, is a great small little conference. I don't want to say small, but not in a bad way, but very intimate. And so you get to see everybody and really get up close and personal with the speakers and the other attendees. It's a great little thing. And Austin's fun.
Yeah. No, and the conference, right, so if you've been in the past, we were kind of out in the outskirts of Austin. This time it sounds like we'll be in the heart of the weirdness that is Austin. So
sweet. I look forward to it. Then in March, like Shane mentioned, March is a pretty busy month. He and I are going to be in Branson for the North American Collaboration Summit. I forget all the things we're going to do there, but it's going to be a blast. It's silly. There's just like the average person, when you hear Branson, Missouri, when you hear Mark Rackley, like none of these things make you feel good or like, but man, the man puts together a fun conference. I've been there a couple times. It is great. So if you get a chance, sign up for that. We're going to be doing some stuff there, hanging out,
Yep, doing an all-day thing. I think it's on the 16th. I think it's after the show, but an all-day Power Apps and Flow class there also. So you notice a trend here. I want you guys to learn Power Apps and Flow, so making sure lots of opportunities.
Yep. And then finally, the SharePoint conference is May 21st through 23rd, and Shane and I are doing an all-day session there as well. This one's going to be on SharePoint. I'm going to have to remind Shane what SharePoint is, have a little thing, what is SharePoint, kind of walk him through the circle and all that.
Yeah, and mostly SharePoint on-prem at that, right? If it's the same as...
I forget what we sent them, maybe. I've done both recently, so we've got plenty of material. And then we're just going to be running around doing all the stuff we can at the SharePoint conference. So hopefully we'll see you there as well.
Whew, busy first half of the year.
Yep. Do you have anything else to report about March? There was another tentative thing that may be happening.
Yeah, but it is happening, but I literally don't even know. I couldn't even search my email. I don't even know the name of the person that I'm doing it with. So when I remember all the details, I'll put that in the notes.
Yeah, well, and let me know, because it's right. There's overlap.
I thought I told you I was signed up for that.
All right. We'll chat about it later. Fear not, listeners, all will be revealed. I didn't mean to tease. I thought it was all. Well,
Todd was not unaware how inept I was at actually what I was doing. I mean, that's March. I barely know what I'm doing next week right now.
Painfully aware at how inept you are. Horrifically aware. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next week. And so next week is the 26th. Are you going to be around? You can be traveling?
I think I'm around. I guess we'll find out.
If not, then you get all me. I'll be around. But thanks, everybody. Have a Merry Christmas. I will get this out before Christmas happens. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Joyous Hanukkah. All that kind of stuff. And we will see you next week.
Toodaloo.
Bye.